scaled down the mechanical systems to the tune of $50,000 because they now had less heat to cool against. So really, truly, true story documented that by tuning up the paint color, they literally saved $50,000 in the mechanical system. So the only way you get there is through this integrated approach. So again, if I haven't beaten you all over the head with this, this is real, and it can have real implications, and in achieving a high-performance building.
I think there's another level of integration too. I just wanted to mention so we could acknowledge a couple of people here working with. There was a mention of the municipality and bringing the municipality along with the leaders in the movement as well. And there's some people here tonight. Councilwoman Rebecca Feldman, who is an incredible voice on our town council. Tim Doherty sits on the Board of Adjustment and is a candidate for mayor this fall. Robert Goldsmith is with the Morristown Parking Authority, and if you haven't been to the 14 Maple Avenue building yet, which is a gold level, high gold, almost platinum, that close to platinum building. It's an incredible showcase of technologies and something that we all aspire to. So through Step Ahead and the Morristown Partnership, if you're ever interested in a tour of that building, you can give us a call over there as well. So thank you to these leaders in our community for being here as well. George Fiore, the executive director, was here earlier, as were some other officials as well.
Walter's going to go over a whole list of what we're actually doing in the project. And then we'll kind of break up, you guys can talk to where we feel like talking to.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it in 5 minutes. So if I go over 5, just help me out.
2 minutes.
All right, let me see if I can do it in 2. So the location of the project makes a difference. All of Marty's, not all of Marty's employees, but a lot of Marty's employees ride their bikes to work. So what does that do? It takes more cars off the road. And coincidence. Yeah. Bike shop, right?
He doesn't pay them enough to have cars.
We all prefer bicycles.
All right, enough headphones, right? So the other thing is that this is in the downtown area, right? So there's a thing called Walk Score on the internet. If you go to Walk Score, you type in an address, it'll tell you what the Walk Score is in that neighborhood. This location has a Walk Score of 82. Which is very high. So that means if you live here, if you work here, within a half mile of where you are, there's bus stops, there's train stations, there's restaurants, there's libraries, there's schools, and all those things are within walking distance. So that reduces vehicle miles for people. The character of the design, I just want to mention that Margaret Westfield worked with us in the very beginning, and she worked with Main Street, New Jersey. And part of the reason that we have the striped awning canopy and the entablature out front in Marty's is from the recommendations from the design guidelines that were originally promoted through the Morristown Partnership for the town of Morristown. So we kind of picked up on the character of the street, we maintained that, we reinforced it. And then the look and feel inside the store, we're going to use a lot of natural materials and salvaged wood, FSC certified wood on the floors. So we're using wood that's sustainably managed. And then there's a lot of openness and light. There's a lot of daylight in the store. We have all these windows. We expanded them to have the old clear stories back. So we're going to have windows going all the way up to the underside of the floor below. We put a big window in on the south elevation so that when people are driving out of town, they can see into the store and see that it's a bike shop and really recognize more about what this store is all about. We also added 2 skylights. And the skylights are going to bring natural light into the back areas of the store that didn't have a lot of the natural light from the windows up front. And those are really high efficiency insulated skylights, and they diffuse the light really well, and they keep the energy inside the space. And they also don't allow the sun to overheat the space. We're using closed cell foam in the walls of the existing walls, so that tightens up the envelope. It's like putting on, a tight warm jacket in the wintertime. Marty's place, we did an energy audit. I think Chris Barrows is here who did the energy audit. There were 16 air changes per hour in the store. So when they put the blower door test, which you probably don't know what that means, it's basically, there's so many holes in the walls and the floor and the doors and everything that it's like having 2 doors wide open all day long. And so we're tightening all that up to the point where we're going to have very little holes. We're using an energy recovery ventilator to bring in fresh air, so that's always going to keep the air fresh inside the store. And when there's a lot of people in here breathing CO2, the energy recovery ventilator brings in more fresh air so that we don't all pass out and get headaches from each other's carbon dioxide. And that really happens. And then we're also considering a rain garden in the back to help. We have a drainage consideration over here on this wall where some moisture is coming through the wall. So we're looking at using a rain garden to channel the water back to a rain garden in the back, which is a deep hole that has plants that really suck up the water very quickly. I don't think Carol Huber's here. No, but she's the landscape architect. She's also local from Morristown. You know, the other thing was using local people, using local regional materials, recycled materials, salvage materials. And we did consider renewable energy. And just to give you an idea of what that is, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, 2,000 square feet of roof on Marty's back building, we looked at that, approximately yields 36,000 kilowatt hours over a year's time of energy. Marty uses 38,000, so it's almost 100% of the total energy use. And by us reducing the energy load in the building, it would easily cover 100%. At $8 a watt, which is approximately what it costs to do solar panels, the total cost would be $240,000. Now everybody's falling off their chair, right? $250,000. But after you do all the credits and the rebates that are available, federal and state rebates in the state of New Jersey, that cost, the initial direct cost in the beginning is $98,000. So with that, the net gain is approximately $10,000 a year for every year after you paid for that initial investment, which is a 7-year payback. So you're investing, you got to be there 7 years. Every year after the 7, you're actually gaining $10,000 a year, and that's if energy prices don't go up. So, you know, a lot of people say solar's too expensive, but I think I just explained something to you where it says maybe it's not. And that's one of the points that we're trying to make here. And if anybody wants to make a donation to Marty,
We've all made donations.
Donate every day.
So,
Any questions from anybody?
So there are
Or
going to be
down?
solar. There are going to be solar panels, right?
There's not.
No.
No. Maybe phase 10.
After everyone buys their new bicycle.
You already did.
But you're not going to have anybody running around back on a bicycle all day. And,
You need to hook the bikes up.
I was going to just spread my mind. Someone's going to be generating.
I have a question. This was an old building, 1840s, you told me, Marty?
1840s. You can see, when you come over here, you can look in the basement, you can see the beams.
Still have markup.
Yeah. So what special obstacles did that present to you?
That's a good question. The existing building, you can see right here that there's kind of a bump down in the sheetrock right here, okay? The existing building ended right here. And so over the years, and then they built in the 1920s, they built a storefront onto this. And what had happened is the structure that was in place wasn't really adequate. Back then they didn't have building code, building inspectors, forget about that. And they just built things, but they built them pretty well. But after 80 or 100 years.
This is what was above there before. This is so cool. This is a hand-hewn beam that was pegged. So pegs went through these holes here. So that's what this was built out of. This is what we took out of. So talk about no code. Pretty amazing, but pretty cool though. We're going to do something with this. We haven't figured it out.
but if I could add that this was a surprise, if you will. Not a surprise, but an unforeseen condition. And the point there also is, you know, if you don't fully follow this integrated approach I've been talking about, at least if you can be doing a renovation in an old building, make sure that you have somebody do some selective opening and some selective demolition before you start the project, so you can really, really look into the building, because typically renovation projects, there are structural issues. And better to capture it up front, because in our case, we found it after we got started, and you know, it was about 4 weeks of working that out. That we could have been 4 weeks ahead.
That was
So,
the biggest stumbling block we had.
Yeah.
Was that. It took a lot of work and a lot of effort to figure out what to do and then to install. This stuff that goes across here, and across there. They installed these steel beams. You should have seen these guys. They jacked the whole building up. These guys were dying putting this thing in.
Pictures of your website.
Yeah, it's on our website. You can see pictures of those beams. It's amazing what they did. Pretty cool. And in the process, this is funny though.